Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something pretty fundamental to life on Earth, reproduction.
Yes.
And we've got a really cool source for this one.
Okay.
It looks like it's a question and answer section from an Indian biology textbook.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's probably for like high school or something like that. But there's even some Hindi script kind of sprinkled in there. So
wow.
we're really getting a glimpse into how another culture approaches this topic.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And the first question they tackle is a big one. Why is reproduction important?
Right.
And it might seem obvious, but the textbook uses this powerful word, immortality, to describe the impact of species reproducing.
Yeah, that is a good way to think about it because, individual organisms age and they die, but reproduction is how the species as a whole can persist for generations and generations and millennia, It's like a relay race, passing on the genetic baton to the next generation.
So without reproduction, would there even be life as we know it?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean,
would it just bend?
It's a hard question to even fathom. You know?
Yeah.
Because reproduction is really the driving force behind the continuation of life. And how it's evolved over billions of years.
So now the textbook goes on to compare different types of reproduction.
Right.
And specifically, it asks, which is considered better? Asexual or sexual reproduction?
That's
It's a bold question.
It's an interesting question, yeah. And I think the textbook here seems to lean towards sexual reproduction. And I think the key reason why is because of genetic diversity.
Why is genetic diversity so important? I mean, doesn't that just make things more complicated?
It does. But think about it this way. A species is kind of like a sports team. And with asexual reproduction, you're creating a team where everyone has the same skill set.
Which, that could be incredibly efficient.
Yeah.
Especially in a stable environment.
Yeah.
But what happens if the game changes?
Right.
What if the environment throws a curveball at you?
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
If everyone's got the same skills and then those skills aren't useful anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Then the whole team's in trouble.
Exactly. Sexual reproduction, on the other hand, is like assembling a team with a diverse range of skills and talents.
Gotcha.
Some players might be faster. Others might be stronger. Some might be brilliant strategists.
Gotcha.
And that diversity increases the chances that the team will succeed no matter what challenge they face.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So more diversity equals a more adaptable and resilient species.
Exactly.
But how exactly does sexual reproduction create this diversity?
Yeah.
The textbook mentions this term clone when it's talking about asexual reproduction.
Right, yeah. So with asexual reproduction, the offspring are genetic clones of the parent, like identical twins. But on a much larger scale, there's no mixing of genetic material from two parents.
So it's like hitting copy and paste on the parents' genes.
Yeah, exactly.
But with sexual reproduction, you're like shuffling and dealing a new hand. Of cards for two different individuals.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And that shuffling process actually happens through meiosis, which is a specialized type of cell division that creates sperm and egg cells that have unique combinations of genes. And then when those cells combine during fertilization, that creates an offspring with even more genetic variation.
So it's like every offspring is a brand new, unique hand of cards.
Exactly.
From the parental deck.
Yeah.
But if sexual reproduction leads to all this amazing diversity, does that mean it's always the best strategy?
Well, so that's where it gets interesting because the textbook does say that offspring from sexual reproduction generally have better survival rates. But it also mentions a very important caveat.
Ooh, a caveat.
I know.
I love caveats.
Sexually transmitted diseases. And inheritable illnesses.
So tell me more.
Right. So these factors introduce a level of risk that you just don't see with asexual reproduction. So imagine you have a population of clones. And a disease spreads rapidly through them. It could wipe them all out because they all have the exact same susceptibility. But with sexual reproduction and its genetic diversity, some individuals might have a natural resistance. Which would increase the chances that at least some would survive.
So it's like a high-risk, high-reward situation.
Exactly. And it highlights this idea that there's no one perfect way to reproduce.
Right.
Both sexual and asexual reproduction come with advantages and disadvantages, and, each shaped by the forces of evolution.
That's incredible.
It is.
Yeah, it really is amazing how evolution has shaped all these different ways for life to keep going.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it is. And, it's also important to keep in mind that this textbook we're looking at really focuses on just the fundamentals of reproduction, and primarily in animals.
Right.
Like ourselves,
Right.
But the diversity of life on Earth
Yeah.
has come up with so many more fascinating ways to reproduce.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, when you think about, plants, they're a whole other world,
Yeah, they've got flowers,
Yeah.
With these intricate designs to attract pollinators, seeds that can travel by wind or water. Some plants can even sprout clones of themselves from their roots.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, and some can even do both sexual and asexual reproduction,
Right.
depending on what the environment is like.
Like they can just choose.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's really cool.
It's a testament to how adaptable life can be.
It makes you wonder, how did all these different ways to reproduce evolve in the first place?
Yeah.
Was there a starting point?
Right. Was there an original way to reproduce?
Yeah, what was the prototype?
That's a question that, evolutionary biologists are still trying to figure out.
Okay.
There are lots of different theories. But one idea is that early life forms maybe replicated themselves through just simple cell division.
Okay.
Kind of like how some bacteria still reproduce today.
So asexual reproduction could be the original, and then
potentially
sexual reproduction kind of evolves later as a way to increase diversity.
Yeah, that's one possibility.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, it makes you appreciate the journey that life has taken.
Yeah.
From those humble beginnings to the incredible variety of ways that organisms reproduce today.
Yeah. Are there any examples out there that really show just how weird and diverse these strategies can be?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Have you ever heard of the deep-sea anglerfish?
I feel like I have, but I don't remember.
Okay, so the male anglerfish is actually tiny.
Okay.
Compared to the female. And it actually fuses itself to the female.
Whoa.
And basically becomes a living sperm bank.
What? That's intense. A little parasitic sperm bank.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's wild.
That's deep sea life for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool.
And then you've also got things like parthenogenesis.
Okay.
Where some animals, like certain lizards, can reproduce from unfertilized eggs.
So they're cloning themselves.
Yeah, basically. But it allows them to reproduce even when there aren't any males around.
So it's the backup plan.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah, nature is full of surprises.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it seems like every species has its own unique way to solve this problem of reproduction.
Exactly, and that's how they ensure that their lineage continues.
All right, it all comes back to that idea of species immortality.
Right.
That the textbook was talking about.
Yeah.
Even though our individual lives are finite, the drive to reproduce makes sure that life itself goes on.
It's a powerful force
Yeah.
that has shaped the diversity and resilience of life on Earth for billions of years.
So after going through all of this stuff about sexual and asexual reproduction, and even some of the crazier strategies out there,
right?
I have to ask, if you could choose, would you prefer a world dominated by just one type of reproduction? Like all sexual, all asexual?
That is a fascinating question.
I know, right?
Yeah.
What would it be like?
Yeah. Yeah, it really makes you think.
There's a thought experiment,
Yeah.
On an evolutionary scale. What would it be like?
Exactly.
A world of clones versus a world
right.
where everyone's unique.
Yeah, if we're just thinking purely hypothetical here, a world with only asexual reproduction, it might seem kind of nice at first.
Okay.
No more worries about finding a mate. Everyone could reproduce.
Yeah.
Populations could potentially grow a lot faster.
It sounds efficient. But wouldn't there be problems with, disease?
Yeah, that's the big risk.
Yeah.
Without that genetic diversity.
Right.
A single disease.
Yeah.
Or even just a change in the environment could wipe out everybody.
You'd be like all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
Genetically speaking.
Yeah.
So maybe a world with only sexual reproduction would be better than more diversity.
It's true. You'd have more diversity and more resilience.
Yeah.
But you also have to remember that increased risk.
Yeah, right.
of sexually transmitted diseases and inheritable illnesses.
It's a tough call.
Yeah, it's a trade-off, and it's one that nature has been dealing with for a long time.
I guess that's why we see both out in the world,
Right.
It's like a balance.
It is. It's like the yin and yang of life.
Yeah. Pushing and pulling.
Exactly.
Creating all this diversity.
It's really incredible.
It really is. And who knows, maybe somewhere out there in the universe, there are planets with just one type of reproduction.
It's possible.
Or even ways of reproducing.
Right.
We haven't even thought of.
Absolutely.
It's mind-boggling.
It is. It really makes you realize how much we still don't know.
Yeah, there's so much more to discover.
Yeah.
Both here on Earth and beyond.
For sure.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive.
Yes.
Into the essentials of reproduction.
The fascinating world of reproduction.
Big thanks to all of our listeners.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
For coming along on this journey with us.
We hope you learned something new.
And we hope you've got a new appreciation for just how amazing and diverse life on Earth really is.
Absolutely.
Keep those minds curious out there, folks.
And keep exploring.
We'll see you next time.